In fact, I had looked on the website, I don't know, in the past year, and just even the base prices, were already like doubled of what, I had paid. So, just the labor and the supplies have gone up, since the pandemic and all the other things that have happened in our world.
Welcome to the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, the show where you learn how to plan, build, and live the tiny lifestyle. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and today we're exploring the cozy nooks of park model tiny homes with Cindy Ballaro. Cindy is not only a resident of a charming tiny home, but also a multipreneur who wears many hats, including that of a publisher and marketer. Living in the picturesque mountains of North Carolina, Cindy has turned her sunflower-themed tiny house into a haven for both living and for Airbnb guests on occasion. She's going to share with us the unique benefits and challenges of choosing a park model over a traditional towable tiny house, and how this lifestyle complements her entrepreneurial endeavors. So if you're intrigued by the community living aspect of tiny houses or are considering a park model for your own downsized life, this episode is for you. Stick around. But before we get started, did you know that I personally send Tiny House newsletter every week on Tuesdays? It's called Tiny Tuesdays, and it's a weekly email with tiny house news, interviews, photos, and resources. It's free to subscribe, and I even share sneak peeks of things that are coming up, ask for feedback about upcoming podcast guests, and more. It's really the best place to keep a pulse on what I'm doing in the tiny house space and also stay informed of what's going on in the tiny house movement. To sign up, go to thetinyhouse.net/newsletter, where you can sign up for the Tiny Tuesdays newsletter. And of course, you can unsubscribe at any time. I will never send you spam. And if you ever don't want to receive emails, it's easy to unsubscribe. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/newsletter. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy next week's Tiny Tuesdays newsletter. All right, I am here with Cindy Ballaro. Cindy has over 4 decades of experience in strategic planning and implementation, project management, marketing, facilitation, and singing. As a multipreneur, she has founded 7 successful small businesses, the most recent being Sunflower House Publishing, named after her sunflower tiny house, where she has lived for 4.5 years. Located in the beautiful mountains of North Carolina, her tiny house is available for rent several weekends a month on Airbnb, and she highly recommends giving her tiny a try. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. I have, been in the tiny house world now for 12 years, and I've certainly always heard people talk about park model homes. They're maybe the cousin of tiny homes, but can you explain to me what is a park model home? What is a park model tiny home? And is there a difference?
Well, I don't think there's a difference between a park model tiny home and just a park model.
Okay.
But the main difference is that a park model is like mine is almost 11 feet wide. So a traditional tiny home that I differentiate them as that's a towable tiny home is only 8 or 8.5 feet wide.
Uh-huh.
And you could literally hook it up to the back of a truck or a vehicle and take it down the road.
Yep.
With my home, it requires, a bigger trailer truck, a wide load sign, permits, things like that. So primarily it's the width of the home.
Got it.
That differentiates between a park model and a towable tiny house.
Okay, got it. And so then with a park model, it's right there in the name park. They are typically located in RV parks?
Well, mine is located in a tiny home community.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So is there a mix of, towable tiny homes and park model tiny homes?
Yes. In fact, I would say in our community, it's probably about 60% towable, 40% park models. So, pretty even.
Okay. Can you talk us through, the decision-making process, and why you chose a park model tiny home over a towable tiny home?
Sure. So really for me, the towables that again are like 8 or 8.5 feet wide, well, that was just too almost I want to say claustrophobic, but just too thin for me, really. And I also wanted just I guess a little more space. So this provides with,
Yeah.
this width, a little more space. Also for me, I wanted everything on one level. And in the towables, most towables have a loft where the bedroom is. I have come across a few towables that have a downstairs bedroom, but that's pretty rare. And that was
Yeah.
a must
Yeah.
have for me, was a downstairs bedroom.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of my decision for me.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. The loft, I can attest that climbing the ladder up to the loft, no matter what your age is, gets very
I
tiresome.
can only imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you wanted that downstairs bedroom, are there any, and the extra width, which again, also I validate that as well, that, especially if you are only able to be 8 feet wide on the inside of your towable tiny house, that it can make things feel very kind of tunnel like.
Right.
Whereas at 11 feet, you really have rooms.
Yes, exactly.
Were there any other, benefits or disadvantages that you weighed when you made this decision?
I did want lots of windows, and I also wanted higher ceilings. So again, with the smaller ones, because you do have lofts, you cut off, parts of your home, the ceiling area.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't feel quite as roomy.
Yeah.
And again, I wanted just lots of windows. I believe I counted and I have 18 windows in my house. I'm not sure that you could have quite that many in, the smaller version.
That's fantastic. That's quite a few windows.
Yes.
So how easy would it be? How kind of tangible would it be for you to move your home at this point if you decided that you wanted to live somewhere else with it?
It would be a really big deal.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have a deck, also that I've added on, but it would take, it takes those tractor trailer trucks.
Okay.
And special permits, and it would be a really big deal. I don't foresee moving it really.
So to move it, it gets like loaded up onto some kind of trailer.
Well, actually, what I actually saw this recently because we had a new park model come into our neighborhood.
Okay.
And what they did, and I believe this is remembering back what they did for mine, was, like the engine part and the cab part of a, regular big truck that's carrying, loads.
Yeah.
That cab part can attach to the trailer and the house underneath it. So that can go down the road because I still have, I'm still all trailer and wheels underneath, just like the towables. So that's how they brought in the one recently. And I believe that's what they did for mine also. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, interesting. So, what kind of infrastructure is required for a park model versus a towable home? I'm guessing you have flush toilets. So I'm guessing, like hook up to some kind of septic or sewer is required.
Yes. And so I live in a community called Oconee Bell. We're located in Mills River, North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And so here they, have provided the sewage and water hookups already, electricity hookups. And, each person has a spot. And then we have 15 feet around each house.
Okay.
And so when you pull in, either if you're a towable or a park model, you a professional comes and does those hookups for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, what was the buying process like for you? Or actually, I'll back out and say, is your home, was it a new build for you, or is it a used park model?
Yes, this was a new build for me.
Okay.
And so at the time when I started looking, I was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I wanted to be able to go and, walk into the model of the house.
Okay.
I just, that was a must for me. So I just started looking like within a drivable radius of who was selling tiny homes and park models. And that took a bit of research.
Okay.
And I went on several trips, to go be in them.
Okay.
And then I found it was an RV dealership that had these park models on it. They were carrying this line.
Nice.
In Yadkinville, North Carolina. And so I went there and was able to go inside it and walk around and see the layout. And it was, all of the things that I wanted. And so the builder is Krop, Kropf. It's a very hard word to say. But they actually build them in Indiana. So I was able to pick out, like my outside color, my roof color, my floor color, my wall color, it came with curtains. I could pick out, the pattern, the countertops, backsplash.
Okay.
So, I had a lot of things that I got to choose in the process, which was really great.
Yeah, that is great. It's nice that you had the ability to do some customization. Right. Now, are the things like the layout, I'm guessing that's like pretty set in stone in terms of like you choose your layout, but you can't really say, oh, I'd rather have, this wall be a little bit, can I make this room 2 feet bigger?
Right. I don't think I could have said that. They had a couple of different versions. In fact, they had one with a loft and a downstairs bedroom. But to me, I just knew I was not going to be using that loft. It just felt like wasted space, and I'd rather have the higher ceilings.
Yeah.
So, there were some other models I could have chosen.
Okay. Interesting. And then, if you wouldn't mind sharing, what was the cost of the home, and if you used any financing? I know that our listeners are very curious about how people are paying for their tiny homes.
Right. Well, I had a condominium, and I sold my condominium, and I had enough money from that. That was what was going to help me with my tiny home.
Awesome.
And so I did not have to do any financing, which I was very happy about. Yeah.
Sweet.
And I'll tell you, I bought this home in 2019. This is pre-pandemic. I think I found the most inexpensive park model yet, solidly built and all of that of anybody I've spoken to.
Okay.
Because with the home, the skirting that was done, and my deck adding on, it was around $55,000.
Wow.
Which, when I sell it, believe me, it's going to be a lot more expensive just because everything has, gone up.
Yeah. But
I just feel like I really was at the right place, the right time, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, even if it is a bit more expensive now, that's pretty darn affordable.
Yes. In fact, I had looked on the website, I don't know, in the past year, and just even the base prices, they were already like doubled of what, I had paid. So, because
so it's gone up.
Yeah, because just the labor and the supplies had gone up,
sure,
since the pandemic and all the other things that have happened in our world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, who would you say a park model tiny home is ideal for?
Well, I am a single woman and it's perfect for me. And I have several other single women friends in my neighborhood that also have park models. So I would say
Nice.
that's a good target. I think that, definitely a couple could live in here probably pretty comfortably. We do have a few people who have, a child living here, and they are even in the smaller towables.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a bit much for me personally, but
Yeah.
and really in our community, the age ranges are just, all over the place. I mean, we have 20 somethings up to, people in their 70s. So it's a really wide range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Can you share one unexpected benefit and one unexpected challenge you've encountered from living tiny?
Well, I had hoped that this would happen, but I didn't really know if it would. So I really wanted to live in a community of people where I knew my neighbors and would, hang out with them and socialize with them. And
Yeah.
when I see somebody walking their dog by the street on the street, I like know their name. And that has come true. And so
Yeah.
that has been awesome. Even when I lived in my condos before, I might know the neighbor just right next to me, but I just didn't know all my neighbors like I do here. There's something about, there's a camaraderie between us because, we want to live in these tiny houses, which are so unique. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's been an awesome benefit, the community itself.
Nice.
Okay, and tell me the
awesome.
second part to your question.
Just an unexpected challenge.
An unexpected challenge has been that a lot of moisture is in the air in a tiny house.
Okay.
And so I discovered that because I found some mold on some of my clothing and I was like, got to do something about this. So, I have these little damp rid containers around and I have a dehumidifier that sucks the moisture out
Yep.
of the air. And I think that's probably, because I have so many windows and
Yep.
and that kind of thing. But other people in my community have told me that they've also had that issue. So yeah, the moisture in the air, I didn't expect to be like, kind of having to deal with that.
And is that primarily like in the winter or is that just all the time?
It probably is more in the winter when I think about it.
Okay.
Because in the summer, I've got the air going and that sort of dries it out just doing that. But I keep them out year round and I'm changing them year round. So it's still there.
Right. Okay. So what made you want to Airbnb your tiny home?
Well, I am self-employed and like you said in my bio, I'm a multipreneur, which means, I just have I have income coming in from multiple streams. And I've kind of always been like that.
Uh-huh.
And so when I moved here, and again, as a self-employed person, my income is, up and down each month.
Sure.
So I thought, if I'm going to move there, they offered spots where you could Airbnb. And I thought, I think that would be another great stream of income.
Nice.
I have friends, I lived in Charlotte for 30 years. And so I have friends that are always saying, come back and visit. So that was a good place to go. I have a new grandson that lives an hour away. I have to go see him at least once a month. And then my mom lives about 3 hours away.
Oh, yeah.
And I, want to go see her. So I usually go to Greenville for the weekend, and then I'll drive to mom's on Monday and I'm there for a week and through that next weekend and then come home. So that opens up 2 weekends in a week where the house was just going to be sitting here. So
Nice.
I thought, I think I'm going to see if I can make a little money during that time. And it's really worked out great for me. And I've had fabulous guests. And fortunately, in our community, we have somebody who manages the Airbnb rentals because there is actually a whole section here that is strictly rentals. I'm kind of actually the only hybrid that lives in my house and Airbnbs it. So there's somebody that manages those reservations. So I don't have to do all that part of it, which makes it really easy.
Oh, that's fantastic. So they handle, doing the cleanings and the laundry and just interacting with the guests.
Yes.
Excellent. May I ask like what, they must take some kind of commission from your bookings.
Yeah, we do a 70-30 split. So I get 70 and they get 30, and that feels
nice.
Comfortable to me. I think that's probably about standard, for other places that are doing something similar.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's fascinating because I'm also an Airbnb host. I also Airbnb my tiny house, and I do all that work myself, but it is a lot of work. Certainly. And I'm never all that far away. So it's like I'm doing the laundry myself. I'm answering guests. If something breaks, I'm the one that's driving down there to fix it.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you manage your privacy and your kind of personal belongings when you're renting out your house?
Well, I have these little signs around that say, "Thank you for respecting these personal items." And so, nice. And then I have little signs that say "For guests." So I just put those out, and I have a little sheet that people, when they come in, that kind of explains that. And I have just never had a problem with it.
Yep.
I kind of feel like the people that are attracted to stay in tiny houses are, I don't know, I just want to think that they're above board and authentic people and, for the most part, and wanting to experience what it's like to be in a tiny house.
Yeah.
Of course, it's all over the internet now about living tiny, and so many people are curious about it. So, they're getting an opportunity to really come see what it's like. And so I've had great guests. I've just never had a problem with anything being missing, or if it is missing, I haven't noticed it, so it doesn't matter.
Nice. Do you have any memorable stories or interactions with guests?
I'm usually gone when they're here. I did have one time when there was a woman who really, I think she still does really want to move here. And so she came, and just somehow it worked out that I was here when she arrived. I can't even remember how that happened. But so we got to meet, and that was really fun. And now we're still friends on Facebook and, all that kind of thing. But yeah, usually I do have a guest book, and I ask people to write in it, and they usually write really lovely things that sometimes make me tear up even. Just how homey it felt and how comfortable, and thank you for sharing and opening up your home for us, So yeah, it's really heartwarming to read those notes when I get home.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm always curious about how people kind of make their lifestyles work for them. And as an entrepreneur myself, I'm always curious to hear about what other entrepreneurs are doing. So can you tell us about your other businesses? You also have a publishing company.
I do. I have a publishing company that is called Sunflower House Publishing, named after my sunflower house.
Nice.
And I have published 5 books that I wrote or put together. And then I just recently am starting to offer services to people who have a book, but they don't know how to literally get it, published it onto Amazon. And so a woman came to me who I've known for years, Twyla, and she had a book, and she asked me if I would, publish it for her. And so I did, and it was a great experience, to help her, do the final editing and proofreading, and then get it formatted and then up onto Amazon. And so it's up there now. So it's great. That's been really great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I really want to do more of that. So if anybody out there has a book that is just sitting on their computer, please give me a call.
Nice.
And then I also, my background has been a lot in marketing for performing arts organizations. And so I still do that for some small companies, a theater company in Charlotte.
Yeah.
As well as a company that goes to, this is very cool, they go to large retirement centers and recruit a group of 7 to 10 people who go through about a 6-month process of revealing their life story. And then they write a script from that and then perform it.
Wow.
And it's just really amazing. Those productions are really amazing. So helping do the marketing for that. And then I have a couple of solopreneurs that I do their marketing. I have a podcast that I also help produce.
Oh, fantastic.
Lots of fun things.
That's so cool. Yeah, that sounds great. And do you find that living tiny helps to kind of support your entrepreneurial lifestyle?
Absolutely, because I do not have a house payment. I have, my lot payment for my rental, but that is much less than what it would be if I was, in an apartment or condominium with a mortgage.
Yeah. What is your lot payment?
Right now, they are going to be set at $700 for new people moving in. Mine's a little less because, I've been here for a little bit.
Yep.
But that is your water, the lawn maintenance, and then, of course, the hookups for the sewage and the electricity. And then we also have a beautiful stone clubhouse here, which is available for us to use whenever we want to, and an outdoor pavilion. And they're, adding some other fun things on the property. Yeah.
Lovely.
Not to mention that I'm in the middle of just this beautiful, beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains, and, can't get better than that.
Nice. Well, fantastic. One thing that I like to ask all my guests is, are there any books or other resources that you'd like to recommend to our audience?
Well, I have been interviewed on 2 YouTube channels.
Nice.
So Tiny Home Tours was the last one.
Okay.
And that just aired. You might have seen that one, in fact. That just aired like a month ago.
Yep.
And so if anybody wants to go check that out, then they will see the full tour of my home.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I will definitely post a link to that in the show notes for this episode, which I'll tell people what that link is in the outro of the show.
Great.
Cindy, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. It was great to meet you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you so much to Cindy Ballaro for being a fantastic guest on the show today. You can find the show notes, including a complete transcript and lots of photos of Cindy's beautiful tiny home at thetinyhouse.net/294. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/294. And to all of our listeners, remember to follow the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode full of inspiration and valuable insights into tiny living. Until next time, well, that's all for this week. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, reminding you to embrace simplicity and find joy in the cozy spaces of your home, big or small. Take care and talk to you next week.